My name is Mia Sawyer. I'm 28, and on the second day of being somebody's mom, I stood on a sidewalk outside my in-laws' iron gate, holding my one-day-old daughter in one arm and two suitcases I didn't pack in the other. Behind that cedar door, my mother-in-law had just told me, word for word, "There's no room in this house for a wife who doesn't pull her weight." My husband was upstairs. I saw the curtain move. He never came down. I want to tell you I made a scene. I didn't. I stood in the July heat doing the one thing I've always been good at: math. Then a beat-up blue Buick turned the corner, and my mom stepped out with a lawyer and a folder that was about to blow that family's whole world apart. Nobody saw it coming. Welcome back to Silent Revenge, where the quiet women keep the receipts and the endings get earned, not gifted. Drop a comment telling me where you're listening from, hit subscribe because you do not want to miss how this ends. Now let me back all the way up. I grew up in a rundown duplex on Cypress Street with my mom, Renee Hatch, who spent almost 30 years at the front desk of a title and escrow company. My dad left when I was 4. I remember a denim jacket and a laugh that showed up right before disappointment did. Mom never badmouthed him, never chased him for a dime. She just built a life without him, brick by brick. She's not a warm blanket kind of mother. She's snow tires in October, not romantic, but she keeps you alive through the winter. Her one rule repeated my whole childhood like a family prayer: read it before you sign it, baby. If somebody won't let you read it, that is the answer. We weren't poor, just careful. But careful made me hungry, not for money, for the other thing. What I saw through lit windows walking home from school: a whole family around one table, a last name everybody already respected. A house you belonged to instead of a rental you were passing through. Mom built me solid ground. I spent my childhood staring over the fence at castles. Took me 28 years, 2 suitcases, and one beat-up Buick to learn which of those actually holds up in a storm. Every small town has a family like the Rourkes. In Ashford Hollow, it was the iron gates on Maple Ridge, the name on 3 car dealerships on Route 9, a brass plaque at the library. Eleanor and Walter Rourke, photographed every Christmas in front of the same stone fireplace. 13, over meatloaf, I asked my mom why we couldn't be like the Rourkes. She didn't look up. We don't buy names, baby. We buy ground. There wasn't a drop of envy in her voice, just something dry, the tone she used at work when a customer bragged about a deal she'd already read the fine print on. She knew things about the castles in Ashford Hollow the way a plumber knows things about a beautiful house. I never once asked what, not for 15 more years. By the time I did, I was standing on a sidewalk holding everything I owned. I met Colton Rourke over a spreadsheet. I run Sawyer Books, a one-room bookkeeping office downtown. Rourke Automotive hired me to untangle their inventory accounts, and the manager assigned to me was the owner's son, 31, sleeves rolled up, self-deprecating in a way nobody with that last name had any right to be. When the numbers embarrassed the dealership, he never blamed the last bookkeeper, just laughed and said, "100 years is a lot of time to build bad habits." I liked him the way a slow leak becomes a flooded basement. You don't notice the drip until you're standing in water. 8 months later, he brought me to meet his parents. Eleanor received me in a living room that smelled like lemon oil, looking me over the way an appraiser checks a chair somebody's passing off as an antique. Her first question wasn't what I did for a living. She tilted her head and asked, "Sawyer? Now whose people are the Sawyers?" I told her my mom worked at a title company and my people were mostly just my mom. Something flickered behind her eyes and got filed away. I thought it was disappointment. Took me 5 years to realize it might have been arithmetic. If you've ever had somebody's mom size you up in one sentence, comment "I know that look," because it gets worse. We married the spring I turned 26, under a tent Eleanor picked, in front of 200 guests I could name maybe 40 of. I'd wanted something small at the lake. That fight never officially opened before I'd already lost it. "This town expects certain things from this family," Eleanor said, patting my hand like a gavel. The one fight I won quietly at the county clerk's office. I kept my name. When Eleanor found out, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Rourke women take the name, she said. My mom said nothing. Her eyebrow said a whole paragraph. Colton did what I'd spent 5 years watching him do. Stepped into the middle, hands up, charming both directions at once. Mom, it's her name. Mom means, well, a sentence for each of us. Nobody defended. Everybody managed. That weekend I also overheard the club's events coordinator murmuring to Walter about the balance, the card being declined. Try the other account, Mr. Rourke. Walter's smile faltered 1 second before he laughed it off. Rich people's paperwork, I told myself. My mom, across the room, watched the same exchange and wasn't the least bit surprised. The plan was to live at Maple Ridge a year or two, save up, then buy our own place. The West Wing's basically an apartment, Colton said. For 2 weeks it really was a soft landing. Then Eleanor knocked, holding a leather ledger. Every couple under this roof contributes, she explained, warm as gravity. Our share, $750 a month, recorded with everyone's initials like a 1920s boarding house. Then, wrapped as a compliment, Colton says you're a wizard with numbers. The family accounts are a mess, dear. Meaning I'd also do the Rourke's bookkeeping for free. I felt chosen. The girl from Cypress Street handed the keys to the castle's books. I said yes before Colton looked up from his phone. My mom would have read that arrangement twice and slid it back across the table. I signed with a smile. Nobody ever handed me a page to actually read. Turns out that was the whole design. Comment 1 word if you've ever felt chosen right before you got used. Here's what you learn when a 100-year-old family hands you their checkbook. Names don't cash. I balanced the household accounts in a month and they balanced to a slow, elegant leak. Transfers from the dealerships had shrunk for a decade. The club dues and gala tickets hadn't shrunk $1. I proposed trimming, twice monthly landscaping, rebid the insurance, pause a membership Walter hadn't used in 2 years. Eleanor delivered the family motto instead. This family does not live like accountants, dear. But one line wouldn't leave me alone. Every month, $1,100 went out to something called Redstone Capital Servicing. Autopay memo blank years back. No file anywhere. Eleanor said, Walter handles that. Walter turned up the golf and asked if I'd ever seen a swing like that. I let it go. Write that down, it matters later. Behind the main house sat a 2-story guest cottage, abandoned since the moon landing. I furnished it in my head the first time I walked through, and Eleanor watched me do it. That fall over dessert, fix it up, you two. Heaven knows we're not using it. A free house on family land, I teared up. But I'm still my mother's daughter, so the next morning I asked, lightly, for something in writing. Eleanor gave me the look you'd give a kid asking you to sign a permission slip for a hug. Family doesn't do paperwork, dear. I asked Colton to push. He said the 11 words I'd hear in my sleep for years. It's my parents, Mia. I promise you, you can trust me. So here's what I did. I emptied my savings, $41,000, hired the contractor myself, a patient guy named Frank Alessi, and kept every receipt in a green folder. Remember that folder? The renovation took a year. Picked real brass doorknobs, warm in the hand. Colton showed up weekends, swung a hammer for an hour, got photographed doing it. At Sunday dinners Eleanor started mentioning me almost fondly. My first warning, because her fondness always came with a price tag. You know what I appreciate about Mia? She contributes. Everyone under this roof earns their keep. I sat there feeling proud. Earning my keep. Like a compliment, not a price tag. Like anyone had ever asked what Colton's keep cost. If you've ever felt proud of earning something that should have just been given to you, like this video, because this is where everything turns. By late winter the cottage had drywall and my whole heart poured into it. Colton put his chin on my head in the empty nursery and said, "Crib goes there." I cried into his coat because 2 days earlier I'd watched 2 pink lines show up on a test. We told the family at Sunday dinner, and Eleanor's reaction had 2 movements. 1. Genuine delight, hands clapped, a Rourke baby. 2 before the pie was cut, recalibration. Now, how exactly are you planning to manage your little business? You'll be needed at home. Not how are you feeling. Just, what do your months look like? Translated from fluent Eleanor, what does your cash flow look like? At 23 weeks, I started bleeding and spent the night listening to my daughter's heartbeat gallop on a monitor. Prescription was plain English, modified bed rest, no lifting, avoid stress, it's medical. My income dropped through the floor. I kept 4 clients I could manage from bed and lost 11. For the first time in 3 years, I could only put $400 into the envelope instead of $750. Nothing was said. That's the thing about houses like that. 2 mornings later, the ledger showed up on my breakfast tray, my initials at the top, and next to that month's number, a small, neat red circle. Delivered with my toast. Colton said he'd cover it. Then his own paycheck came up short the next week. Things are tight at the store. File that next to Redstone Capital Servicing. By my 3rd trimester, I was allowed downstairs for meals, sitting at that cherrywood table like a chair that talked. If I brought up the nursery, the subject changed in 2 sentences. Eleanor had a rotation of stories, all the same moral. When I was carrying Colton, I hosted 40 people on my feet all evening. Women in this family have never been delicate. Colton got quiet, not cold quiet. He'd squeeze my knee under the table, a private telegram. Sorry, you know how she is. I learned that a knee squeeze under a table is what surrender feels like when it still loves you. So I kept my own books, a plain notebook in my nightstand. Every household payment dated. Every cottage invoice cross-referenced to the green folder. $41,000 in renovations, $36,000 in contributions over 3 years. No strategy yet, just a bookkeeper laying sandbags out of habit. Then one night, passing the study, I heard Eleanor on the phone, low and vicious. This household cannot keep carrying a mouth that doesn't work. I stood there, hand on my belly, and made myself believe she meant somebody else. At 8 months pregnant, you ration what you're allowed to know. But paperwork has never once lied to me. If you've ever overheard something you talked yourself out of believing, comment I ignored it too. The next part is the one you came for. Cottage got finished. I proposed moving in before the baby came. The stalling started, smooth enough it took 2 weeks to recognize. After the final inspection, there was no inspection scheduled. The insurance needs sorting. I offered to sort it. We'll figure it out once the baby's here. Then one afternoon I watched from the window as 2 men in polo shirts carried folding tables and 40 boxes of Heritage Committee files into my cottage, stacked where the crib was supposed to go. When I brought it up, Eleanor didn't reload. Storage. Temporary. Then she took the key. I kept the cottage key on my ring, heavy brass, warm in my coat pocket. Frank had handed it to me at the walkthrough with a little ceremony. Key to the castle, boss. A week after the boxes arrived, Eleanor stopped me in the hall, palm out. The painters need access, dear. Let me hold the key. The painting was already done. I'd paid the painter myself 2 weeks earlier. I heard my mom's voice. If they won't let you read it, that is the answer. I was 36 weeks pregnant in a hallway gone very quiet. I worked the key off the ring and set it in her hand. She smiled. There. Isn't that simpler? She never gave it back. My daughter, Wren, came in July, 2 days late, 7 pounds, a cry like a fire alarm, my mom's stubborn chin. Labor ran 14 hours, and the only person in that room the whole time was Renee Hatch, reading a paperback between contractions like a woman guarding a border. Colton showed up at hour 11, apologizing about an emergency meeting, a refinance he'd explain later. There's that word again. Refinance. Eleanor visited for exactly 10 minutes, pearls on, looked into the bassinet and said, in the exact tone you'd use finding out a restaurant ran out of the fish special, a girl. She left a gift bag with an empty silver picture frame for the christening portrait. Sit with that, it's the most honest gift she ever gave me. That night my mom said, out of nowhere, when they discharge you, you'll go back to that house. If anything happens, call me before you argue with anyone. Promise me. I promised. I didn't ask why. Discharge came Thursday morning. Colton texted at 9:40, store crisis, can't leave, take a cab. I buckled Ren's carrier into a taxi and said, God forgive me, Maple Ridge, the big one with the iron gate. Proud of it still after everything. Cab pulled away and left us on the curb. Every window shut. On the porch in the shade, 2 suitcases. Mine. My winter coat folded into a square. In July. I carried my daughter up those steps on legs I couldn't feel and tried my key. Half a knuckle stopped. New lock. I rang the bell. Footsteps. The door opened 4 inches, caught on the chain. In the gap, Eleanor, pearls on at 10 a.m., face arranged like a form letter. Mia, she said, not dear, my own name served cold. A floorboard creaked deeper in the hall, then went quiet. Eleanor, my key, she looked at me the way you'd look at a solicitor with a clipboard. Colton needs a clean start, and this household needs contributors. You've been a lovely guest, but guests don't stay forever. A guest. 3 years, $60,000, 1 grandchild. Eleanor, I live here. We'll sort it out when Colton's home. He's at the store. She tilted her head, one small, patient smile. Who do you think packed the suitcases, dear? Then, in the voice of a woman reading a line item she'd already decided to cut, every person under this roof earns their place. There is no room in this house for a wife who doesn't pull her weight. The door closed. Not slammed, clicked. Worse. Above me, the soft complaint of a window frame. 2nd floor, west wing, our bedroom. Colton, arms crossed, close enough to have heard every word through glass he never opened. We looked at each other 3 seconds. He looked away first. If your stomach just dropped, comment the window. What happens next is why I'm telling you this story. I didn't knock again. I sat on the bigger suitcase and called my mom. Mom. It happened. For seconds of silence then, level enough to scare me more than shouting. Are you and the baby safe? 20 minutes. Click. No questions, like she'd been waiting 3 years with her coat on. I sat in the July sun holding my sleeping daughter, doing inventory because inventory is what I do instead of screaming. I'd paid to stand on this exact sidewalk, $36,000 into the envelope, $41,000 into a brick building whose slate roof I could see past the garden, now stuffed with somebody else's gala banners. And here's the strange mercy of hitting bottom. The shame that had idled in me for 3 years changed its address right then. It walked up those porch steps and moved in with the people behind the chain lock. That's when the Buick came around the corner, faster than I'd ever seen my mom drive. Renee Hatch in her work blazer, and out of the passenger side, carrying a briefcase, a silver-haired man I'd never seen in my life. Baby first, my mom said, and held Ren with her eyes closed like drinking water after a double shift. Then, Mia, this is Martin Cole. My attorney, 11 years. Get in the car. I don't do business on other people's sidewalks. We parked under an elm around the corner. My mom opened a folder and laid the first page on the console and turned my understanding of Ashford Hollow upside down. Letterhead, Riverstone Holdings LLC. I said it out loud, Redstone Capital Servicing. $1,100 a month. Memo blank. Years. My mom almost apologetic. The servicer just collects it, baby. The note underneath is mine. The translation, the Rourke house, gate, cedar door, chain lock, all of it, sat on top of a private mortgage. Banks had said no years ago. Private notes get bought and sold like used pianos, and 4 years earlier, the note against the finest address in Ashford Hollow had been quietly purchased by a one-woman LLC registered to half a duplex on Cypress Street. Mom! You hold their house. She corrected me the way she'd correct a rookie at the escrow desk. I hold the debt sitting on their house. Different thing. Martin, dry as an audit from the back seat. As of 90 days ago, the Rourkes are $11,600 behind. 30 years at an escrow desk means 30 years watching this town's paper cross her counter. Names age like roofs, honey. From the street you can't tell. From the paperwork you always can. A broker's flyer had crossed her desk the same spring I got engaged, and Renee Hatch, who has never bought a lottery ticket, cashed out a retirement CD and bought it. Why? Because my daughter was going to live under that roof, and I'd already read what was holding it up. You buy the field between your house and a wildfire. She never told me because if you'd known, you couldn't have lived there honest, and if they'd known, you'd have paid for it in 100 small ways. When the payments ran behind, she told the servicer to be patient. This morning your mother-in-law solved that problem for me. Buckle up. We're going home to feed this baby. Then you tell me what you want. If your jaw is on the floor, comment the Buick new and subscribe. We are not close to done. That night, nursing Ren at 2 a.m., I stared at that folder and let myself walk through foreclosure. The notice in the paper, an auction sign zip-tied to that gate, Eleanor carrying her own suitcases down those steps. Tasted the way sugar tastes when you're already sick, because at the end of it there was Ren, 5 years old, asking why her other grandma didn't live anywhere. I wrote 3 lines in her feeding log: burn it down, force the door back open, or collect exactly what's mine to the dollar and close the account. Before I decided, Martin cross-referenced my green folder against the dealership's filings. The slow leak wasn't just gala tickets, it was Colton's older brother Dean, who ran the second lot on Route 9 and had a habit nobody at that table said out loud, one that lived at the Riverboat Casino 2 counties over. $1,100 a month, memo blank. That was Walter quietly refinancing to cover the hole. Dean kept digging, calling it the stores a little tight every time. Eleanor had known, and she'd spent 3 years pointing her committee voice at my $400 short during bed rest, while her own son bled the family from the inside and got a pass every time, because he'd been born with the right last name already attached. Comment Dean if you saw that coming, because I sure didn't. My phone lit up. Colton, Mom went too far. Give it a few weeks, I'll bring you home. A few weeks, from the man who'd watched from a window. I circled option 3. In the morning my mom asked, salt shaker in hand, I can call that loan tomorrow. Accelerate, foreclose the whole parade. Or I can sell the note and let gravity handle the Rourkes, because gravity always does. It's not my sidewalk they stood you on. What do you want? I looked at Ren, owing nobody a thing. I want to close the account. Correct to the dollar. And done. Martin worked fast, and the Rourke's attorney tried the town's favorite lullaby, surely a misunderstanding best kept private, until Martin read him the arrears and the recorded instrument number. A meeting got proposed downtown. I overruled it. The porch? For 3 years, every hard conversation in that family happened on their turf. The one time the terms were truly theirs, they'd picked a chain-locked door and a public sidewalk. The papers concern the house. 10 a.m. Thursday. Front door. I wore my audit blazer, mine bought with bookkeeping money, left Ren with my neighbor Mrs. Castellano, who raised 5 kids and treats babysitting one like a paid vacation. My mom handed me the folder in the car and said one thing, you knock. 3 of us on that porch. I knocked. Eleanor opened on the chain, then all the way. Once Martin held out an envelope. Counsel for Riverstone Holdings LLC, holder of the note recorded against this property. You'll want to read this. I watched her posture break from the top down, eyebrows, mouth, shoulders, her hand finding the doorframe like a railing on ice. Walter pays, there's a servicing company, this is a trick. My mom, one sentence, the servicer collects it, Eleanor. I own it. Shall we do this in the doorway or at your table? For the first time since the Rourke family was invented, that door opened all the way for a hatch. We sat at the middle of that table, not the edge, for the first time in 3 years. Walter came down already gray. The words weren't news, only the name behind them was. Martin laid the papers out like surgical tools. Nobody touched a page. Eleanor stared at the assignment line, doing archaeology in real time, recalculating who'd been in the guest chair this whole time. Colton, she called, voice cracking. He came down the same stairs he'd watched me from and stopped on the bottom step. arriving at the exact intersection he'd spent 5 years steering around. Eleanor rallied once. This house has stood 100 years. If you think some bookkeeper's mother is going to frighten, my mom let her finish, then set it down like a foundation stone. We don't buy names, Eleanor. We buy ground. And the ground under your name has been in my handbag for 4 years. Then something I didn't see coming. Eleanor dropped into her chair, pearls swinging, and for 1 second she was a 62-year-old woman at a table she'd spent her life defending. You think I was born at the head of this table? I came into this family with 1 suitcase. I ate at the children's table for 10 years. Everyone who walks into this house pays, I paid and I paid and I. She heard her own accounting said out loud in front of a bookkeeper and the sentence died. Her eyes found mine. For 2 honest seconds, we understood each other completely. She'd been me once. She'd just decided the fee was legitimate because she'd already paid it herself. I slid 1 page across. 41,000 documented, receipts attached. My belongings returned. Quiet, uncontested separation by Saturday. In exchange, the note goes to a servicer who'll never know your name from any other account number. Nobody loses this house because of me. I stood, walked to the porch, and set the brass cottage key on the railing where the suitcases had sat. I'm giving back the only thing of yours I ever wanted. Behind me, Mia, Colton, finding his voice 4 days too late. You know where my mom's front door is, I said. You've never once used it. I walked down those same 6 steps on my own legs at my own pace, my mom and my lawyer falling in beside me like exactly the right size parade. My mom started the engine and said, You gave the key back. I did. Good. That was the entire debrief, because we both knew what I'd really left on that railing wasn't brass. It was the whole idea I'd carried since I was 8, that somewhere behind an iron gate there was a table with my name on it, if I could just contribute enough to earn it. I'd finally read that contract all the way through. I declined to renew. If you're still here, comment I read the whole contract, 1 part left, and it's the one that made me cry writing it. Grief has decent manners. It waited until we were home. That night I fed Wren, handed her to her grandmother, and came apart quietly in my old bedroom. Not for Eleanor. Not even mostly for Colton. For the family in the lit window, the carved turkey, the whole beautiful stage set I'd paid $75,000 in tuition to stand inside. That dream had been mine since I was 8. I buried it at 28, in a room that still had band posters on the closet door. Colton called at 9. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't drive over. The voicemail was Colton at his most Colton. Mom's shaken, everybody's shaken, I never wanted this. Give it a few weeks. I love you. His entire vocabulary for love was a request for extensions. I sat at my mom's kitchen table and filled out the divorce paperwork. My hand shook on the first signature line, not from doubt, from downgrade. You call something your future for 5 years, and then it's an account you're closing, and your body knows the difference even after your mind's done the math twice. I signed. My handwriting was steady by the last page. Then I ruled a double line under the notebook where I'd sandbagged 3 years of payments. Count closed. Nothing carried forward. Wren woke up hungry at 2, and I told my daughter the first true thing I ever taught her. You will never have to earn a seat at any table of mine. The Rourkes paid, not graciously, $41,000 inside 6 months. The boat went first, then Walter's antique roadster. My boxes came back that Saturday, packed with genuine care, Eleanor's hand unmistakably. Say what you want about that woman, she can pack a box. The separation went uncontested, sole custody mine. Colton gets Saturdays with Wren, watched like a teller's cash drawer the whole time. He's gentle with her. Gentle was never the missing ingredient. Dean's dealership lot quietly changed hands to a regional chain. The family kept one location, Walter's name still on the sign. My mom kept her end, too. The famous note sold at a modest, unromantic profit to a pension fund in Ohio, where the Rourke name is now 7 digits between a ranch house in Toledo and a duplex in Akron. Maybe the most democratic thing that's ever happened to that family. Never wanted a throne, she said, signing the transfer. Gravity always does the bookkeeping eventually. The following spring, a sign went up outside the iron gate, sold to a nice orthodontist family with a trampoline. The Rourkes moved to a townhouse near the club. Nobody foreclosed. Nobody had to. A borrowed name came due on its own. I just declined to keep making the payments for it. Sawyer Books reopened that fall, same office, new sign painted by a client's daughter. My 11 lost clients came back and brought friends. A strange little side practice grew on its own, too, young women newly married, walking in with paperwork some new family had slid across a beautiful table. I read every document with them, line by line, the way my mom read mine, too late and her own always on time. Ren turned one this July. My mom made us take a picture on the duplex porch, her in her work blazer, me holding the baby, all three of us squinting into the sun slightly off-center. Subjectively a bad photograph. It's also the only three-generation portrait I have ever been in, and it hangs in my office where the Rourke Christmas photo used to hang in my imagination. My key ring carries exactly 2 keys now, the office and a small rented house on Cypress Street, 4 doors from my mom. Nobody holds a key to my life for the painters anymore. Took me 28 years to learn what my mom tried to hand me at 13 over a plate of meatloaf. So let me hand it to you now, free, no ledger attached. A family that makes you pay your way in was never selling family. It was selling a seat, and the rent on that seat never stops rising. People who are actually yours pull the chair out for free, no ledger anywhere in the house because love that keeps books isn't love. It's a mortgage and somebody someday always calls the note. That's my story. 2 suitcases on a sidewalk, 1 blue Buick, and a brass key I finally got to give back on my own terms. If you've ever paid rent on a seat at somebody else's table, the price never stops climbing, and the person who shows up for you in 20 minutes flat is your actual family. Hit subscribe if this one got you, comment what you'd have done on that porch, and share this with the one person who needs to hear it today. I'll see you in the next one.